There's been a ton of talk about the incident that happened in Memphis, Tennessee, where a black man died after being brutally beaten by other black officers, and people have been charged in that individual's death. People have been fired, and a lot of conversation about police performance and policies that should keep police from conducting themselves in this fashion. So we'll obviously be hearing a lot more about this, and even the ideas floated around body camera use, whether there should be street crimes units, which apparently was what was involved in the Memphis case, but also what kinds of federal regulations there should be concerning policing. Well, I reached out to the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police Executive Director, former Springfield Police Chief Kenny Winslow, and he provided some reaction to what we saw happen in Memphis. We talk about body cameras, we talk about street crimes units, and also about what kind of federal regulations there could possibly be. So let's go ahead and get right on into it. Again, just some of my conversation I had with Kenny Winslow, the executive director of the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police, with his initial reaction to what happened down in Memphis.
There's no excuse for that, Greg. I think we were all appalled, disturbed, alarmed by the actions of the members of that unit that were involved in the incident down there. It's one of those things that you hope something like that never occurs. And obviously, by the actions of those officers, the fact they were wearing body cameras and they did what they did, and then nobody intervened. No one stepped up and said, "Hey, we got him," and no one did anything to stop it. Is disheartening. And their actions are going to be judged by a jury, and rightfully so. And I'm sure that they'll spend a little time in prison if I'm a guessing man. But, one of those things, we don't have all the facts, but I don't need all the facts to know that use of force is not what those in professional law enforcement use. They're not the tactics we use. Those type of tactics occur when you're in a fight for your life, and, a lot of other things have failed. Again, this was just unfortunately was fatal.
And we'll see, of course, a lot more developments out of that with charges, not just against police, but also apparently some EMTs facing some legal ramifications from what happened. But about the issue of body cameras, again, speaking with the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police Executive Director Kenny Winslow yesterday, he was the former police chief in Springfield, and Springfield has had body cameras for their police officers for quite some time. So Winslow's a proponent of body cameras.
Oh, absolutely. We were an early adopter when I was in the city of Springfield for adopting body cameras. We're the first major city in the state. I've been a firm believer. I've presented on this topic many times for our association. The association I'm currently the executive director for. I've presented outside of the state on this as well. They're just a tool to help paint a better picture of what occurs out there. And while they're not perfect, or a panacea, they give us a lot to go on. And we saw that here. If they wouldn't have had the body cameras, what we would have had, obviously there they still had an overhead camera there. They're just a valuable tool, and, what we've seen in my experience with the Springfield Police Department was that the body cameras were, just as always with any change in law enforcement, there's a little concern about them when we first got them. But I bet you right now, if you go and ask any officer at the Springfield Police Department around the state, do they want to get their body camera? And 99% of them say no. They embraced them. They've seen the value in them. What we saw at Springfield was that, it helped paint a better picture out there. It also helped curtail behavior and help de-escalate things. When people know they're being recorded, it typically changes their behavior a little bit, not always. And same with the officer, So, again, I think they're a valuable tool for law enforcement. I think it's one of the positive things that came out of the Safety Act is that all departments are going to be mandated to have them. There's a cost there. We would hope that the state would come forward and help with that cost a little bit more. And I know they allocated more money this year, so we're thankful for that. But it's just an ongoing cost. And so you got to obviously build that into your budget for an annual expense.
Sharing with you some of the conversation I had with the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police Executive Director Kenny Winslow, who's the former Springfield police chief. And one thing that Springfield has that a lot of other urban municipalities have, including down in Memphis, was a street crimes unit. I can't remember the exact the acronym for Scorpion that was used in Memphis, but I believe it's the S and the C in Scorpion is street crime. So I think it's like street crimes organization responsible for something like community safety, or I can't remember the exact acronym, but regardless, a street crimes unit. There's a lot of these all across the country, and it appears that down in Memphis it was a street crimes unit that was visibly in the body cam and surveillance video brutally beating Tyree Nichols before he died. So these body cams being on street crimes units, what about these street crimes units? How are they useful? Winslow responds to some of that.
Well, again, I think each department may do things a little bit differently. I can tell you that our experience with Springfield Police Department is that this type of unit is needed. You need somebody out there who can be freed up from calls for service to address our violent offenders, to address our gang issues, to address our gun violence issues, as well as our illegal narcotics and other violent crimes. And but they got to have proper oversight. And you got to have your best people in there. You can't just put anybody in there. You got to have your best people in there, because they're going to work with a little less supervision, maybe than a street officer. I know when we were going through budget cuts at the city of Springfield, I was often asked, why do we need 2 supervisors for 10 officers? Well, that's exactly why. You need your best officers out there. You're asking them to take on some of the most dangerous tasks and interact with the most violent people in our community. But you want a sound supervisor. You want your best supervisor. And that's something we always did at Springfield. We picked our best sergeants to be in charge of those units, as well as our best lieutenant. And, everybody was like, well, that scope of authority is only 5 people. Yep, it's only 5 people, but it's needed. And so it was one of the things that when we were going through budget cuts, there were several times we had to lobby and argue to keep those 2 supervisors there versus going down to 1 supervisor for 10 officers. When you got a 7-day-a-week unit, you need they're going to be on opposite schedules. They're going to be 3 to 4 days there where they're there all together, and there's going to be 2 or 3 days there where they're not there together. So you'll have a team of 5 on some days, you'll have a team of 10 on other days, and I count time off, benefit time. But you need that supervision. And I won't say it was totally for lack of supervision down there, because I don't have that information. But I think these are just a little more of a higher risk unit, so you want to have appropriate supervision. I don't want to say lack of supervision led to that, because I don't know that. But what I will say is that I believe by their actions and their comfort, I won't say a little cavalier, maybe even. This don't look like this might have been the first rodeo for these folks. And so I don't know that. I don't know what their review process is on body-worn cameras or for that unit. I know at Springfield Police Department, anytime use of force is utilized, there's an automatic review of anything above normal handcuffing to review that. Unless something's changed since I left, that's the way it was. Anytime there's use of force like that, a supervisor is going to respond to the scene. They're going to start an initial use of force investigation to see what force we used, why we used it, and if it was justified. Then a lieutenant has to review that use of force as it goes up the chain of command, all the way to the deputy chief of the division. If there's something that is serious use of force, where somebody's injured and has to be taken to the hospital, it always comes to the chief's desk for a review as well. So you got to have those appropriate policies and procedures put in place. And the big thing is training. You have to train your people, and you have to ensure that they know appropriate tactics. There was none of that there. It wasn't. And let's just be real here. This was an assault and battery, and a brutal one at that. And then,
so we're hearing some of the conversation I had with former Springfield Police Chief Kenny Winslow, who's now the executive director of the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police, and we'll get to some more of that here at the top. Body camera and surveillance footage showing police brutally beating a man who died and the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police Executive Director Kenny Winslow. Talked with him yesterday, and here
from the time I was hired in 19 January 90. So as far as being, we've had that all through time. And that's so we've incorporated that, incorporating that's just another aspect we work with.
About recruit efforts and how is that going to be hurt by what happened down in Memphis? Former Springfield Police Chief Kenny Winslow and now the Executive Director of the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police sounding off on that.
No, like I said, Greg, I think the biggest thing for us in law enforcement is that, we got to be able to hire men and women with the courage to do the right thing. When I get those officers who respond and they don't know what happened, you do there, and you have to, additionally, those that are there, you got to stop it. Okay, somebody's out of line, you owe it to your brothers and sisters to grab them and, as I call, tag them out. You step in and take over and, de-escalate the situation. I've seen it happen many times at the Springfield Police Department. Things are escalating. That one of the other officers just kind of puts their hand in front of the other officer, steps in front of them, takes over the conversation, de-escalates the situation. And that's what we need. Not only can we have to work as hard as we can to do our best, but again, don't have all the facts down there. There may be something comes out that helps the officers in some way, but the bottom line is that that use of force, I just don't see how that's going to be really justifiable in my opinion.
So next hour, we'll actually talk with the current Springfield Police Chief, Ken Scarlett, to get his reaction to this and how the Springfield Police Department now is handling any such instances of overuse of force from police and what kind of force is justified. So we'll get some more of that coming up here. But an interesting story, of course, we've seen develop in Springfield deals with some paramedics who are facing charges in the death of a man that they put into a gurney. And there's been calls about possibly having even paramedics wear body cameras as well. But up in Chicago, you've got a committee that's okayed an ordinance that would protect paramedics taking a beating from patients. This coming from, I believe, the Chicago Sun-Times, where amid warnings that Chicago Fire Department paramedics are taking a literal beating at the hands of their patients, the city council committee in Chicago answered the alarm, with the Committee on Public Safety unanimously approving an ordinance that was also on behalf of the Chicago Firefighters Union to create a special category of crime for assaulting Chicago Fire Department paramedics and private ambulance workers, American Red Cross, or any other emergency medical services. So interesting to see this continue. It's an important conversation to be had when it comes to public safety. We'll definitely be continuing to have that conversation.